Welcome to the Sports Court. I'm Gregory Beatty alongside the wonderful Eddie Cox, Grade A Media, Grade A Radio, the Sports Court. Eddie, glad to be back in the midst of that terrible tropical storm, Nicholas, tropical storm, the damn hurricane, I mean, how did you make it in that, man? Obviously, we were not able to be in here last week because of it. That's like the second or third time the weather has interrupted our week, but hopefully everyone was able to make it out okay in that situation and everyone is healthy. So we're back. It's Tuesday, and let's rock and roll. How did you make it in the hurricane, my brother?
Aside from some minor power issues, we're all right. Everybody's all right. So we were fortunate. Actually, the storm sort of took like a eastern turn right over Houston, or right before it got to Houston, and that sort of changed the game. I think that changed a lot of the potential flooding and stuff. So we made it out okay. It was fortunate. I know the areas along the coast, like down in Nassau Bay, Galveston, they got hit with some power issues pretty hard, but everybody seems to be okay and recovered pretty well.
Hey, man, well, that's good. You know what? I tell you what, I'm tired of these damn hurricanes. And quick story. Before we talk about a lot of NFL, a little bit of college football, I'm not going to let my Buckeyes make it off the hook. Trust me. Going to talk NFL, of course. The Astros gearing up for this big-time playoff run. Basketball season is getting ready to start. I don't know if we're going to have time to talk NBA this week. Probably more likely we won't. But a lot of NFL to talk about, obviously. But Hurricane Harvey, tell you a quick story, man. You know Hurricane Harvey, you know how sometimes it can give you a false impression. I'm looking out of the window at the crib, and I'm like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought out there compared to what I'm seeing on TV with a lot of these places. I'm like, okay. So about 7:30, 8 o'clock one night in the midst of the hurricane, I decided I'm going to go to the store around the corner. I'm going to go to the store real quick and get out there on the road. Actually, leaving the crib, it wasn't, everything was cool. Made a couple of right turns, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll make it to the store. Realizing that I'm noticing there's not one person on the road but me. I know you're talking about an idiotic decision at that time. I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm like, I can make it to the store. And get to an area, I see some water, what I think is not really that high, and it's actually by a creek too, So I'm thinking, I'm like, oh man, I can make it through that. But again, I'm noticing I'm the only one on the damn road. And so get up to the water. Now, where I'm driving right now is cool. Everything is cool. Then I get to the water that I think is low. Next thing you know, my car just start going like this, Eddie.
Oh, no.
Hey, bro, trust me. And it gets up to the window. So I get out, and I still have about half a mile to go. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm in a damn flood. I done towed my damn car out. And again, nobody's on the road. It's like a ghost town, bro. It's like I'm the only one on earth right now. I mean, have you ever seen that movie Will Smith? I think he's the only one on the earth or something.
I Am Legend.
Yeah, right. And I was like, are you serious? So it went over the window and everything. So I get out. So I have to push the car. Obviously, the car stops. I start pushing the car, and I'm saying to myself, I done totaled my damn car. I'm pushing it. I'm thinking I'm about to get bit by a snake. I'm thinking I'm about to get bit by an alligator, something. I'm like, oh, damn, I'm about to get bit. And so finally, to make a long story short, finally get up to where I can maneuver my car, and I'm pushing. I'm talking about water is up to chest level, and car is completely I thought the car was gone. So I finally get to where I can make a turn into a shopping center, and the water isn't as bad right there if you get to a certain point. And so finally, after about 20 minutes of pushing, I'm able to get it up onto that ramp, and finally get it up into that shopping center where there's no water. I'm saying to myself, oh man, my car is totaled, blah, blah, blah. So to make a long story short, I leave the car there, walk home, thinking I'm gonna come back the next day, have to get the car towed or whenever I can get it towed or whatever. Come back the next day, car's completely dry, starts right up. I'm like, wow, but I will never do that again. Hey, man, but you know what?
And you know what they say, turn around, don't drown, Greg. You know that a lot of people make
I
big
couldn't even
mistakes,
turn around.
especially I know what kind of car you were driving then. Not a good idea taking on the water, especially in a rapid rising flood like what happened with Harvey. But, I know you're ready to get into what we're going to talk about this week.
And why can't it be a Hurricane Gregory, man? I don't want hurricanes. I don't like hurricanes. But all these damn names, Don't you want a Hurricane Eddie at some point?
I don't know. That'll be the one that'll mess all your stuff up. Watch. Hey. But
will it? It'll do it like that?
Oh, most likely. I mean,
I need a Hurricane Gregory, man.
Or it would do nothing. People are like, I knew Greg wasn't about nothing.
Hey, well, that's a lie. But go ahead, though.
Just like they may be saying about Nicholas.
If it's a hurricane,
now, those who dodged
it's
the
gonna
bullet.
hit, my man.
But look, there's never a boring week in the NFL. The NFL has been super exciting throughout 2 weeks. We're going to talk about that. But first, we make a stop by Columbus, and we talk about the Buckeyes. Buckeyes suffering a huge loss. Greg, tell me, I know that you were going through the ups and downs of the game, but tell me, when it was all said and done, where you stand with this Buckeye squad.
Oh, man. You know what, Eddie? I mean, it's a long season, but, don't you turn the air off? Mm-hmm. You got me baking in here now. I am not too happy with what I'm saying for the Buckeyes right now. I'm really not. I mean, against Oregon, I was up in here. I was talking about how you need to lean on Oregon. You need to lean on them. And they're playing without their best player, the number one pick in the draft, supposedly, upcoming. They're playing without him. And I'm like, go lean on them. The thing about it is, Oregon had different plans. It's almost like Ohio State went into that game thinking that they were just going to run roughshod over an Oregon team, thinking that Oregon was the same team that they'd always been, that they could just out-physical. Oregon brought the noise on both sides of the ball. They out-physical Ohio State from start to finish. They wanted that game more. And to be honest, man, I don't know what's going on with my Buckeyes this year. Now, the one saving grace, and I'm the type of person, I'm about championships. It's either championships or nothing. I mean, if Ohio State loses another game, I honestly do not have to watch them again this year. And I'm a diehard Buckeye fan through and through, win, lose, or draw. But if they lose another game where their championship hopes are dashed completely, and they may be now. See, I'm one of these guys who think you have to win every game to make it to the national championship game. And, of course, their only saving grace right now is they lost to an Oregon team that's now ranked number 3 in the country. And so you hope they continue to do well. But, of course, you don't want them getting in at the end of the day. But, of course, you have Bama and Georgia, and you have some other teams looking good right now. But the thing about it is, my thing is, you lost that game. I'm not going to get fooled, even if you run roughshod through the schedule, through the Big Ten schedule. The Big Ten is looking good right now. Penn State, Franklin, Sean Clifford, the quarterback, he's proving people wrong this year. He's proving doubters wrong. Now you have fans in the stands at these college games. That make a difference. That really makes a difference. You have Penn State playing up to their ability. You have teams like Iowa. You have Michigan State. Michigan looking like a juggernaut. They put up 60-some points the other day. The Big Ten right now is looking damn good. Penn State beat Auburn, an Auburn team ranked number 22. So the only saving grace Ohio State has, before I break them down a little bit before we move on, the only thing they have going for them as far as the playoffs are concerned, playoffs? Hey, what did Jim Moore say? Playoffs? Hey, I just hope we can win a game. The only thing they have going for them right now is the fact that the Big Ten has been so good up to this point. So when they play some of these teams moving forward, those teams are going to be ranked high, and if they're able to catch their footing, play up to their ability, quit with the dumb coaching on the defensive side of the ball, and they're able to beat these teams, then at the end of the season, if you win the Big Ten championship, then because the conference was so strong, you may have a chance to get in there. But I'm not going to fall for it. Once you lose a game, in my opinion, I'm not going into that Sunday weekend where the committee walks into the room and you're at their mercy because you lost the game. Ohio State has been through it before where they should have been in a couple of times, where they should have been in and didn't get in, all because of a hiccup early in the season. Now, granted, those couple of times it was always against a team that wasn't ranked as high or something to that effect. So, again, if they win out, maybe they have a chance. But it wouldn't surprise me if they win out but still don't make it in because they lost that one game. It all depends on what other teams do. You got Oklahoma. You got, which I'm not crazy about Oklahoma. I think we'll kill them. Well, I don't know the way the way the Buckeyes are looking. But I'm not crazy about Oklahoma. But the Ohio State defense is pitiful. When I say pitiful, I mean pitiful. You let Oregon, you let them score on 3 different touchdowns, the same exact play, And that goes on Ryan Day. You cannot let the defense coordinator continue to go out there and put those guys in a position not to succeed. And I'm not saying any dogs on the defense side of the ball. I don't give a damn what kind of recruiting class they have coming in every year or what it says in the rankings. They're ranked number 2, number 3. I don't see no pass rush. I don't see no one getting to the quarterback. I see cornerbacks getting beat. Even though I like Burke, I think he's going to be a great corner. You still have a couple of corners that's out, your starting corners. But you have defensive backs getting beat time in and time out. What did I say a few weeks ago before that game? I said they're always out of position. They're always out of position. And that's bad coaching. It's bad technique. And they're just getting beat at the point of attack, at the line of scrimmage, getting handled at the line of scrimmage. And they look so weak right now. But what did Ryan Day say to Jenny Tav? And this really amused me at halftime of that Oregon game. When she came out there and said that Ryan Day said that Oregon is not doing anything that they're not expecting. I'm like, what? Really? I can't tell. They're not doing anything that you're not expecting? Well, I can't tell. So where are the adjustments? And then you look at the offense side of the ball. You look at C.J. Stroud. I mean, the defense is pathetic. I mean, I don't even want to spend more time on the defense. They have to get it together. I know they have talent over there, but I was saying the coach should have been fired after that game. You don't demote him to non-play calling. That's a fireable offense. I mean, but, I'm not vouching for anybody to lose their job, but they did demote him from the play calling duties. Didn't look any better last week against Tulsa, who came in 0-2 and still put up over 500 yards. So I'm not excited about the prospects of my Buckeyes unless they just get better and live up to that talent and the coaching becomes better. But Ryan Day, that's on Ryan Day. Then you have C.J. Stroud, who I said a couple of weeks ago after that Minnesota game, I said, hey, the first half, I was clamoring for Quinn Ewers. And to be honest with you, I'm still clamoring for Quinn Ewers. I don't give a damn how far he is on the depth chart right now. He's a prize recruit like an Andrew Luck or Lawrence, and put him in the damn game and let him play. But C.J. Stroud is doing okay right now, but he starts out too bad. He gets behind the 8-ball. He's missing wide open receivers. He doesn't play with any kind of swagger, any kind of confidence. Now I realize the second half, Ryan Day usually schemes up enough stuff for him to get the job done. Now I said that I'm clamoring for Quinn Ewers, but then in the second half, the guy looked like a first-round quarterback, maybe even a top-5 quarterback. And I was saying that based on his arm strength and things of that sort. And, of course, he's going to put up some gaudy numbers in that Ryan Day offense. But what I'm seeing from him early on is, and I know he's young, but he doesn't play with that confidence, that swagger. He doesn't really get his team. He doesn't really motivate his team to really get going and really start playing. He just plays like he's scared or something like that. And I'm gonna tell you, man.
Hey, bullets are flying, man. Bullets are flying right now. Greg's pissed.
Y'all tell you this.
The rant continues. Here we go.
I'm gonna tell you this though. What I will say, what I said the other week, and this is no surprise to anyone who's been following it and who knows it from high school. TreVeyon Henderson. When I tell you they have a superstar at running back, and I recognize talent. I catch him young, and I know the same thing I said about Trey Young, and I can go on and on and on. TreVeyon Henderson is a superstar in the making. And I know people say, oh, well, if you look at the way these running backs are doing now, you can get a running back in the 4th round. Look at Jones for Green Bay, and you can get a running back in this round, and they can do this. Yeah, that's probably true. But you also have those guys that you take with a top 2 pick, or even a first pick if he comes out and he's healthy, the way he's looking right now. And like a Saquon Barkley and a Reggie Bush with the number 2 pick. TreVeyon Henderson, who broke Archie Griffin's freshman record for single game rushing, over 270 yards he went for, 3 touchdowns. And when you talking about special, he is special, explosive. I'm talking about super explosive, great vision, the best freshman running back I've seen since Maurice Clarett. When Maurice Clarett was at Ohio State, the best freshman running back I've seen at Ohio State since Maurice Clarett. And we all know what happened to Maurice Clarett. I thought Maurice Clarett would have been great if he would have kept his head on his shoulders and kept going in the right direction. But TreVeyon Henderson, he's a keeper. And if he stays healthy for the next 2 years, he'll be a top 5 pick, period. I'm saying it right now. I'm putting it out there right now. Yeah, running back this, running back that. He is that special. Speaking of Roger Griffin, what a great guy. What a great guy. Hey, so we'll see, man. I mean, the Buckeyes against Tulsa didn't look good last week, even though they found a way to win 41-20. Again, I'm not completely sold, since I've really watched them now in these 3 games. I'm not completely sold on C.J. Stroud. I mean, yeah, the arm talent is there. He can make any throw on the field. But it's just, I don't know about the intangibles right now. Maybe he'll prove me wrong moving forward. I'm rooting for the guy, but I'm going to tell you right now, if he keeps faltering early on in these games, you got to find a way to get Quinn Ewers in the game and at least see what he has. You pair him with another superstar freshman at your running back position. And then, because a lot of people are saying that next season is supposed to be Ohio State's year. I'm not going to fall for that. Maybe so, but this season is still young. We shall see. But I'm not crazy about what I've seen thus far. But hey.
Yeah, I mean, it really puts the Buckeyes in a tough spot. If you're going to talk playoffs, clearly we talked about just how tough the SEC is. Multiple undefeated teams in the SEC, especially at the top with Atlanta and Georgia. And then you've got Oregon in there. You almost have to root for Oregon to go undefeated. That way you can say, well, the only loss came to this undefeated team right here. Because if Oregon loses a game later on down the road and you're competing with Oregon for that final 4th spot, they're always going to go back to that game and say, we already saw head-to-head, and then you're done.
That's why I say you got to win them all.
You know, OU, I feel like, you know, their schedule favors them, and people know that. But if you got an undefeated OU team, I feel like they're going to automatically be in, and so it's going to be really tough for the Buckeyes to get in. I really think that losing to Oregon early on like that, it's tough. It's going to stick. You know, maybe not as much as one of them late losses, like a loss in the Big Ten championship or something like that, but this one really hurts their prospects.
It did. And again, I had people calling me talking about, well, it's early in the season. And if they win out and win the Big Ten championship, you know they're going to put a Big Ten team in there, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, man. The way Georgia's looking right now, and even if Georgia runs the table and then they lose to Alabama in the championship game, Georgia's probably going to get in. Alabama's going to get in.
Yeah, you almost got to hope Georgia and Oklahoma both fall apart while Oregon and Alabama continue to win out.
Right.
You know, and I just that's, you know, you're asking for a lot there. Maybe pie in the sky.
Right. So, and then again, playoffs. I mean, the way that defense looks, I don't even want them near the playoffs this year. If they're going to continue to look like that, but I'm hoping they're going to catch their footing and they're going to play up to their ability. I'm hoping the coaching will be better. And then if they run through the Big Ten, I'm not saying run through it where everything's going to be easy. I mean, Penn State is not going to be easy. Wisconsin, I mean, Michigan. I mean, I can go on and on and on. But if they go undefeated from here on out, there's going to be a lot of people going into that Sunday when they make the selections talking about Ohio State should be in. I'm not going to be one of those people who sit there and fall for that because, again, in my opinion, you have to go undefeated where you leave no doubt. Now you put yourself in a position, even if you win out, that, hey, you're probably not going to get into the playoffs this year. So, but still, continue to get better, win your games, and just let the chips fall where they may. But again, as far as Travion Henderson, oh my God, I'm looking forward to watching him for the next couple of years and the remainder of this year in Columbus. But again, Bama showed their Bama. They beat a Florida team. Florida looks game and ready. Florida always plays them well. And so
that's another thing. You're going to have all these, even the like Florida, a one-loss team right now in the SEC, showing that they're a formidable opponent. You know, against everybody's consensus number 1 team in the nation, Alabama. Mm-hmm. So man, it's just there's too many teams and not enough spots. You know, we can go all the way back to that age-old argument about when are they going to expand this thing, when are they going to open it up? Because, you know, in the NFL, it's not about what you do in the beginning of the year. Yeah, good teams start well, but not every team that makes it to the mountaintop has always started well. You know, you have the opportunity to play your best football when it matters most, and that's when the seasons turn and it starts to get cold and playoffs and trophies and all kinds of stuff are on the line. That's whenever it matters, when you play your best football. And I feel like if the NCAA would just open up some more spots, then you'd have an opportunity to see more of a true champion and figure out which teams can play their best football at that time.
Hey, there it is, Eddie. I totally agree. So again, with all that being said, there's a lot of football left to play, and I may be singing a different tune come week 9 or week 10 after we play some other teams, some formidable opponents, and see how we look, see if we can play up to our capability on both sides of the ball. and see if our quarterback can get settled down early on in the game. And if they can look like a top 5, top 4 team, we shall see. But again, you lose to Oregon, in my opinion, you're pretty much out right now. So what I was saying earlier before we move on, I'm the type, if you lose again and you're automatically out of the playoff hunt, I mean, you don't even need to ask me what time Ohio State plays, because to be honest with you, I probably won't know. Because don't get me wrong, if I'm home, I'm going to watch the game. I mean, I'm not going to front that like I'm not. I'm a Buckeye through and through, ride or die. But, bro, it's about championships. It's about having a chance to compete for championships. So these bowl games mean nothing these days if you're not one of the top 4. So I don't like what I'm seeing from the defensive side of the ball at all. I mean, these guys are running around out there looking like chickens with their heads cut off, and I don't get it.
So you heard it. You heard it here first. Buckeyes dead in the water. Greg in search of a new alma mater.
Dead in the water.
He's in search of a new alma mater.
Y'all didn't hear that. I know y'all didn't hear that. Y'all heard me say ride or die. But what Eddie is saying is, I'm saying that the chances look bleak for a playoff berth this season. They really do, Eddie.
Yep.
Hey, man, but speaking of that, Eddie Cox, the wonderful Eddie Cox, what's up, my brother? The Texans, I'll be honest with you. Moving on to some pro football. And, of course, UT and A&M. A&M is looking good right now. They're in the top 5 right now. We'll see if that holds up in the SEC. Of course, they have Arkansas this week. I think they play Arkansas this week. Arkansas beat the UT team last week. Not this past game, but the time before that. Arkansas was
almost crushing their hopes.
Yeah, right. So UT has bounced back since then. Now, again, it's a lot of season left to be played, so there are going to be some teams who we least expect to rise to the top. And so we'll see what happens with a lot of these teams. I'm talking about the SEC, Big 12, Pac-12. UCLA finally lost, came back down to earth some, even though that was a hard-fought game. So we'll see how the rest of the NCAA season plays out, and we'll definitely keep you up on a lot of the NCAA goings on every weekend here. But moving on to some pro football, we have a lot of pro football to talk about. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a moral victory kind of guy, Eddie, but I've been impressed with the Texans, even though they lost to Cleveland this past weekend.
Yeah, you know what? That was really a tough fought game where you feel like, and I feel like a lot of other people, Tyrod Taylor has played really well, and he had the Texans in that ball game and maybe in the driver's seat all the way up until he tweaked his hamstring and then eventually pulled it even worse later on in the late second quarter. But I think this Texas team has come out and surprised a lot of people with the way they're able to play disciplined defense. They're getting pressure with the 4 guys up front, mixing in guys, knowing when to mix in Jacob Martin to take advantage of his speed off the edge. You're getting guys like Kamu Grugier-Hill flying into the backfield and making tackles for losses. You're getting tipped balls, interceptions, forced fumbles. I mean, there's one thing we can talk about this defense. I know they beat the dog out of Jacksonville. And I was more surprised with what the offense did in that game, rather than the defense. The defense kind of did what was expected. Trevor Lawrence had a few throws that made him look like a number 1 overall draft pick, but he also had some, some bad plays.
What I was saying about the hurricane, the water hurricane Harvey, when I went to the water, you know how it says objects are closer than they appear in your rearview mirror or whatever, even though that was in front of me right there.
Right.
That's what Trevor Lawrence was seeing that game. Objects are closer than the appear.
You're getting a rookie.
Those holes in the NFL, those windows close a lot quicker.
You're getting a rookie quarterback in their first game, along with, although a very football seasoned mind, a rookie NFL head coach in Urban Meyer. And the Texans proved to be way more prepared for that football game than the Jaguars were. So it didn't surprise me to see them win, but I was surprised by the level of competence I saw from Tyrod Taylor running the offense. Mm-hmm. And, it was clear, not just only in that Jacksonville game. Let's go jump to week 2. We're going to keep talking about Cleveland. You guys are listening to the Sports Court on a Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Jumping in the Cleveland game, the same trend continued. And the trend that I'm talking about is, coming into this season, I think a lot of us suffered from what I call post-traumatic Texan stress disorder, which is, PTSD, which is something that Bill O'Brien has us, all suffering from, because I totally anticipated this offense being an offense that was built around just running the dog out of the football and protecting Tyrod Taylor, not doing a lot with him, not asking him to use his legs too much, just having him, do that little dink and dunk offense that we were so accustomed to, because you're not certain if guys can protect him. And let's face it, even though you have a deep running back room, there's no game breakers there. So I thought it was going to be more of this protect Tyrod, keep keep him.
Weeks ago, you weren't too high on the Texans.
Keep him in the driver's seat, but don't allow him to do too much. But clearly, I was wrong about what the plan was. They have unleashed Tyrod Taylor into the offense. They have allowed him to use his skills in the same way Deshaun Watson was. He's extending plays. He's driving the football down the field. At big moments in the game, he's been accurate. And he's found guys that were wide open. It seems like whenever he's pressured in the pocket, he stayed really cool. I mean, I call it chillaxed in the pocket. He's really looked a lot more comfortable than I think anybody was expecting. And then you go into that Cleveland game and you're like, hey, this is a real litmus test to figure out where you size up against some of the the best teams in the NFL. And Cleveland's right up there. You could start at the top with Kansas City and Tampa Bay, but underneath that, Cleveland's right up there as a team that is on the verge of being a juggernaut, as well as having one of the best and deepest rosters in the league. So Sunday morning, we're trying to see what's going on, and I think the Texans were thoroughly in that football game. Had Tyrod Taylor not get hurt, he's going to miss, let's see, like a month. I'm thinking 4 games. He'll probably be out for sure. He's on IR, so he's going to be out for at least 3. But I think if he doesn't get hurt, we may be talking about a 2-0 Texans team, and a team that you may talk about having a possibility to fight for a playoff spot or fight for a division that's looking wide open. I mean, Tennessee, they had a good comeback win this weekend, but I don't think they're scaring anybody in particular. The division looks wide open. Indy, with all their issues at the quarterback position and whatnot, they're not scaring anybody. So, throughout these first 2 weeks, like you said, no moral victories, but clearly I know what I'm looking at on the field, and I'm looking at a team that is far more – the competition around this roster has driven them to be a far more competitive team than anybody was thinking. And I just don't know how it's going to go without Tyrod Taylor. We can talk about that when we talk about next week, and because they will be the first game of the week. The Houston Texans will be playing the Carolina Panthers on Thursday night.
Break that down in a second before we.
Yeah. So, I mean, and they're going to be starting. You have a rookie quarterback starting in his first game against essentially what's the best defense, a defense that just dismantled Jameis Winston.
Right.
Jameis Winston had the shortest MVP candidacy ever after throwing 5 touchdown passes.
Right.
Yeah, and then the Panthers just killed that offense, and all of a sudden nobody's going to talk about MVP for Jameis Winston anymore, as he was awful against the Panthers. But a lot of that was what the Panthers were doing.
What does say, will the real Jameis Winston please stand up?
Yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, it's like he's back to throwing interceptions. I mean, come on, man. Not saying the guy's not going to throw any interceptions, but wow, the second game, you come back after that performance in the first game,
right,
and you go back to your old ways and throw 2 interceptions like that. But stand on the Texans real quick.
Yeah.
And I always, and I said a couple of weeks ago, I've been impressed with the energy and the way that the players have bought in, even in preseason. Now, even though it was preseason, I noticed that Coach Culley, I noticed that he's brought a new level of confidence. These guys love playing for him. And I noticed that in the preseason, and it's not surprising that I've seen that carry over into the regular season. Now, I am surprised that they're as competitive as they are when supposedly they were devoid of a lot of talent. They let a lot of talent go, supposedly. So these guys are playing above their heads right now. They feel like they can play with anyone. And what did I say if they beat Jacksonville? I said they're going to, whoever wins that game is going to go into the next week with a lot of confidence, feeling like, hey, we're 1-0 just like all other 1-0 teams, and we have a chance just like everyone else. And right. Tyrod Taylor, and I love the energy they're playing with on both sides of the ball. I told you, Justin Reed, I think if he stays healthy, he can be an all-pro. He can be an all-pro at free safety. I love his range. I love his ball-hawking skills. But I just love the way the Texans are playing right now. Now, they had some penalties. They had like 11 penalties. They probably need to get, well, not probably, you definitely need to get more, and especially when they're pre-snap penalties. You can't have that. So you definitely need to get more discipline as far as that's concerned, because that's one thing you do not want as a team is pre-snap penalties, because that's something that you can't control.
Right.
That's just mental. That's just not being mentally there and not staying focused. So when you have pre-snap penalties, there's no excuse for that. Now, when you're hustling and you're making penalties in the midst of a play, when you're trying to get things accomplished, sometimes those things happen. But the Texans had a lot of pre-snap penalties. If they correct that with the energy and the confidence that they're playing with, I think the Texans can have a very, very, very formidable year. I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to make the playoffs.
When we talk about the Cleveland game, I mean, you could say Cleveland didn't play their best game, but the Texans didn't either. Don't forget they started out that game with an Andre Roberts muffed punt that essentially served up the first touchdown of the game to Cleveland after the Texans defense, forced a punt. The Texans offense should have took over. Who knows? We were talking about Tyrod Taylor giving the Texans a 14-7 lead. That could have very easily been a 17 or 21-0 lead had that not happened. Because there's one thing that is starting to become evident too. Cleveland's defense, they're not the best in the league, but they're up there. And it seems to me that the brain trust of Pep Hamilton and Tim Kelly, they understand how to scheme things open for this offense. We're seeing Brandon Cooks. He, I think, is ranked 4th or 5th in the league in receiving with 250 yards. So he's certainly being featured in the offense. Yeah. And but they're spreading the ball around to everybody. They're using shovel passes to Philip Lindsay and the likes of these other backs. Amendola getting involved in scoring the football. It's unfortunate he's going to be out for a little bit. Injury bug bit hard in week 2, but what's that?
Let me say this about Tyrod.
Go ahead.
Once you finish.
No, go ahead.
Well, the only thing I'm gonna say about Tyrod Taylor, it's not surprising to me. Now, the one thing about Tyrod Taylor that I've noticed over the last few years, I like Tyrod Taylor when he was at Virginia Tech. Obviously, he's not at Virginia Tech anymore. But one thing I've always liked about Tyrod Taylor is especially with the Texans offensive line and the way they were predicted to not be very good this season, other than, of course, Laramie Tunsil, but his escapability. He's always been a mobile quarterback. Now, the thing about Tyrod Taylor, and he can throw the ball. So, Tyrod Taylor, his emergence early on in the season and his success is not surprising to me. The only thing that I would concern myself with, and not so much concern myself with, that I would kind of have some trepidation about really anointing him as far as taking him on a big playoff run, he never stays healthy. Yeah. Something always happens. Now, of course, it was a fluke incident that happened last season with Justin Herbert. But every year is something. And what did I say a couple of weeks ago? I said, if we can see him make it through the first 8 games, then we can really assess where he is and what he really means to this team. Because I think if he is able to stay healthy, that's a very good backup option for the Houston Texans who can play.
And it remains to be seen too. Even though he has played really well, whether health wise or the way he plays, you still want to be able to see a longer amount of consistency over a longer, or a bigger sample size from Tyrod Taylor. I don't think anybody was talking about anointing him. They were just thinking hey, he really gives this Texans offense a spark. I don't know if anybody's counting. I haven't heard one person, outside the city say that they think the Texans, even with a healthy Tyrod Taylor, are anything near a playoff team, But
I wasn't saying that.
But I guarantee you that they're
very viable.
But if he doesn't get hurt and they win that football game, we're singing a very different tune, because people would be talking about that, the possibility of that setting up a showdown against the Carolina Panthers, who would also be undefeated coming into the game. And if you had a healthy Tyrod Taylor, what kind of test would that be for the Houston Texans? I think it would be a very big one.
Right, Renat, go ahead.
So even though he's played well, I'm tempering my expectations because I know he does get hurt. But let's face it, a lot of times you talk about the freak accident last year and then before, both those instances, that what makes this instance different is that at that time, the heir apparent was already nipping at his heels. He was doing everything he can to fight off Baker Mayfield and everything he can to fight off Justin Herbert, but it just didn't work out for them guys.
Again, I think he's a very good backup quarterback if he stays healthy. So I didn't think that he would be the cause of the Texans' woes if they did have woes this year. And so I thought he would actually be a bright spot. If you're not going to have Deshaun Watson, I thought Tyrod Taylor would be a very viable option. But again, he has to stay healthy. Now you bring Davis Mills in there, no one can expect a rookie quarterback from Stanford who's only played 16 games to come in there and beat a team on the road now that has fans in the stands behind them. Again, fans matter this year. So you have fans in these stands now that's giving that team even more energy. And even though the Browns haven't been playing up to their ability on the defensive side of the ball, you can't expect him to come in there out of the blue and just just run roughshod over the Cleveland Browns.
No, not going to happen. Not a team that runs the football as well as they do, and certainly not just go through a defense that is also very opportunistic and can get after the quarterback with the likes of Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. Now, I'm not going to ignore the fact that they were down some offensive linemen, so that did give the Texans a boost. I'm curious to see how that Texans front four is able to get after Sam Darnold whenever they play Carolina on Thursday, because that's going to be a big issue. Mm-hmm. We know that Matt Rule in Carolina, they're not afraid. Yeah, absolutely. Carolina, they're not afraid to go to the college concepts that have worked so well for them on offense and on defense. And that could create problems for a Texans team if they're just going to sit back and play zone all day and not be able to get after Sam Darnold. Mm-hmm. You could sit back in that cover two and you could force tip balls and interceptions all day, but that's all predicated on being able to get in the face of Sam Darnold and get your hand on the football or force him to make errant throws. Mm-hmm. If you're unable to do that, then you might as well chalk that game plan and throw it out the window, because it's just not going to happen. You're going to have to blitz and force some man coverage situations, force Sam Darnold to make a bad read at the line of scrimmage, and you got a guy firing in the backfield untouched, force some turnovers that way. But if you want to play that Lovie Smith cover two defense, you better be getting after the quarterback with the front four. So far, the Texans haven't been able to do that, or they have been, I should say. But let's see how it goes against a Carolina team that right now is running and working like a well-oiled machine.
Hey, and you know what? A well-oiled machine is an understatement. I mean, the way Matt Rule and Joe Brady has these guys playing right now, Sam Darnold is actually looking, throughout the first two games, is actually looking like the Sam Darnold that we all thought he would be. Now, that's really an indictment on the New York Jets. And speaking of New York Jets, you saw these rookies this past weekend, man. I mean, that's why I say learn on the fight. You can only get better unless you play, in my opinion.
Bill Belichick has been known to just dismantle rookies
of course it's Belichick.
over and over again.
Yeah,
you almost feel bad for Zach Wilson. I saw a meme of him in a little waiter outfit, like, here's the football.
Joe Brady and Matt Rule, the way they have Sam Darnold playing right now, it's obviously looking like that the Jets were the problem and not Sam Darnold. But they have been playing at a high level. Clearly, right? He is playing at a high level right now. And then you accompany that with the fact, I mean, he has weapons. He has one of the top 2 or 3 running backs in the NFL, in my opinion. You know how I feel about Christian McCaffrey ever since he's been at Stanford. So, I mean, you have a guy that you can dump the ball to out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. You can give the ball to him. He can rush for 1,200 to 1,400 yards. I mean, he's back healthy. You have DJ Moore at wide receiver. Yeah. You have these guys at
with
wide
the
receiver.
sheer speed of Robbie Anderson, too, what he adds to the offense.
Then to have that defense playing like that now, after you have some offensive gurus that's going to scheme up things on the offensive side of the ball, and you have a young defense that's playing like that, a young team all the way around that's playing with energy and playing with confidence. Now, this week is really going to show what the Texans are made of. If the Texans come out there this week and even be competitive, of course you want to win. You do not want to go 1-3. But if they beat Carolina, because they're playing in Houston, right?
Correct.
They're playing in Houston. If they beat Carolina, I'm going to go out on a limb and go ahead and say the Texans are for real this year.
Well, if they do beat Carolina with one Davis Mills taking the snap, that would be a tremendous feat. Now, what we're going to learn the most out of this, this matchup coming up on Thursday is just how equipped and how knowledgeable is this coaching staff, because only really good coaching staffs can go out and win games, with quarterbacks that aren't ready to play. That's one of the most difficult things to do. Quarterbacks get in the game, they're throwing the ball up all over the place. Immediately when Davis Mills got in the game against Cleveland, he immediately threw an interception, which you could say may or may not have been his fault. Andre Roberts did a terrible job of trying to catch, the football. Either way, though, he's in the game and he doesn't look comfortable. So, but of course, now they're going to have, not a whole week, but you've got a couple days to get him prepared. We're going to find out how good that coaching staff is by how prepared they are, and what kind of ways they attack that Panthers defense, even though they know you have a young quarterback. Because I've seen it before. When Gary Kubiak was here, whenever Matt Schaub went down and T.J. Yates took over, you had a team that was defense-oriented. Of course, their defense was near the top of the league with Wade Phillips and J.J. Watt. But still, they were able to win games 13-7, 20-13, because they played outstanding defense, but they picked and choose on offense when they were going to take their shots.
Right.
You can't just sit back there and think that Davis Mills is going to game manage
lean
you
on the run
to
game.
a win.
Right.
You got to lean on the run game, but at the same time, you cannot be afraid to let him drop back and
too.
chunk it. When Davis
action
Mills went in the
stuff.
game against Cleveland, Greg, I don't know if you were paying attention, but they ran the ball probably 9 or 10 times in a row.
Absolutely.
And the buddy I'm sitting next to watching the game, I'm saying they have zero confidence in Davis Mills throwing the football. That game was going to get way out of hand if they didn't start letting him drop back and chunk it. And at first, it was ugly. He was overthrowing guys by huge amounts.
Right.
But then he settled down and he was
did.
able to run the offense. I think, a few days in the film room and being able to, tweak the game plan a little bit to
Take
fit
reps
Davis
with the
Mills.
first team.
Get a couple reps with your guys, that you're going to be playing with. I think that's going to, it's going to bode well. It's going to help him out a lot. He's still going to have to go do it in his first game as a starter, and it's on national television. So I know the butterflies and the jitters are going to be up there. But if that coaching staff has a good plan for him and they're able to have success, win or lose, it's going to tell me a lot about David Culley and a lot about the staff that he has put around, along with the guys that
Right.
were already here like Tim Kelly and what they're doing. Because that'd be the most impressive thing to me, because Davis Mills, the way he looked coming into the game against Cleveland, if he's a completely different quarterback next week, I'm not expecting it, but that's huge. That speaks
Right.
volumes about the coaching
Right,
staff.
so they definitely have to put him in a position to succeed. Now, one thing I will say about Davis Mills is, hey, he's a Stanford quarterback. He's a Stanford guy. So more than likely, you can best believe that he's not a dumb quarterback. I mean, I'm not saying that any quarterback in the NFL is, but more than likely, he's a cerebral type quarterback, a thinking's man type quarterback, and so he just has to have those reps and that experience. But I'm not saying he's going to wow you with athleticism and things like that. But his game is probably predicated on being smart, taking care of the football, making the right reads, things of that sort. So again, if they put him in the right position to succeed, and as long as he do not turn the ball over, and he doesn't beat the Texans himself. Again, hopefully he's not that type of guy where he's just not going to do that. But you still want him to take chances and be confident in his ability. Again, like you said, he has to make the necessary throws. He has to keep the defense honest, so you can't just sit there and run the ball and do not have any threat at quarterback whatsoever.
Well, you're
that
already
can move
behind the 8 ball
downfield.
too. Yeah, you're
Right.
behind the 8 ball, and your margin for error is real small because
agree.
you can't afford to lose or maybe even tie the turnover battle against
Right.
Carolina. You've got to find a way to win it. And that means that your young quarterback's going to have to be accurate and careful with the football while still be willing to take shots on a defense that's going to be coming with some, familiar things that Davis Mills has seen in the past. You look at the film on them; they are doing different things that are different in the NFL, but not different from what young quarterbacks have seen before they come into the league. So let's hope that Davis Mills, if you're a Texans fan, let's hope that he sees and is comfortable with what he sees when he's out there. And if things get started, if they get off to a good start, I can see things going the right way. They fall behind early,
Yes, it is.
it's going to be real hard for
Yeah.
Davis Mills to get comfortable. Then you allow the defense to know exactly what you're doing, and that's going to put the young Davis Mills, in a bind.
And right. Now, let me ask you this before we move on. Unless there's anything else you want to add about the Texans, what do you think, other than what I'm about to ask you right now, what do you think about them? Is it surprising to you that they're not going to activate Deshaun Watson now? It's not surprising to me, but I'll tell you why in a second. But is it surprising? And is that more of a reflection on how they feel about Davis Mills? They figure that he can take the reins and move forward, and they really see a lot in him in practice? Or is that more so about where, well, we like what we have going right here chemistry-wise, and we do not want that Deshaun Watson fiasco coming into the mix right now? Now, if they were 0-2 or if things were out of hand to where David Culley didn't feel like he had the pulse of his team or he had those guys acquiescing to what he wanted and things like that, maybe he would think different. But I think they're in a situation right now to where David Culley, he's saying to himself, hey, I got this team going in the right direction, and this is about me. And I'm going to show you all that. And of course, he's probably getting it from the owner to not playing. But I'm saying if that's not the case, he's probably looking at it like, David Culley's probably looking at it like, hey, as much as I love Deshaun Watson and as great as a quarterback he is, I'm gonna show you all my coaching acumen. I'm gonna show you all how I can get a team that nobody expects to win. I'm gonna show you all how I can get it done. So I think a lot of the early success, even though they're 1-1, David Culley is saying, no, keep him over there. Let me continue to prove how good I am.
Well, that would be interesting because Coley has still proven to me that he does have a long way to go as far as his game management goes. I mean, there was an instance in the game where he turned down what would have been a 3rd and 10. It was 1st and 15.
Okay.
I mean, 2nd and 15. The Texans,
It
was 3rd and 15. There was a penalty that would have given the Texans another opportunity on 3rd down. They declined the penalty and then punted.
It would have been 4th and 2 if they would accept the penalty.
No, it would have been 3rd and 10 if they accepted.
It would have been 3rd and 10.
But instead they declined it. It was 4th and 2. I'm thinking certainly they're going to go for it then. But then they punted it, which makes no sense whatsoever. That may have been the dumbest thing I've ever seen in an NFL football game.
I don't know. Mike McCarthy, he always rivals him for stuff.
I don't know. That was pretty bad.
No, that was.
But
now that mistake right there, yeah. But
I'm surprised that the other
playing,
coaches
sure
didn't allow him to do that. You know, I'm surprised that they did allow him to do that. Right. That was really shocking.
That's what Lovie should have stepped in with his experience.
But as it pertains to Deshaun Watson, you know, I don't know if Culley has that mindset or not. But what I do know is that this is probably all going around that Deshaun Watson is still holding firm and not going to play for the Houston Texans.
Well,
I think they would be open to him playing. If he wanted to come, they would say, hey, look, the NFL, they make the decision that so far this investigation has gone essentially nowhere. So that's why we haven't heard anything. So if the NFL was okay with it, I think the Texans would be okay with him playing. Mm-hmm. Would it be, I would like to think would it be actually ideal for their locker room? I don't know because, there's going to be a distraction. But if they were to start to win games, I think it's no longer a distraction. It becomes a story. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think that Deshaun Watson wants to give himself the opportunity to fall back into, the Texans trap or fall back into love with the Texans. I think he wants to stick by his guns and the guns of his agent and stay out. Now, you want to talk about surprise? I think I'm more surprised by the fact that Deshaun Watson is not just chomping at the bit to play football.
No, that's what I'm surprised about because he's such a competitor.
Greg, tell me if you don't think this is true. Whenever Tua Tagovailoa went down and took that hard hit, Deshaun Watson was probably like, yes, there it is.
Maybe they'll make the trade for me now.
And then,
maybe they'll give up whatever they need to give up.
Like, there it is. I'm going to Miami. That's what they need. They need Deshaun Watson. But, it turns out Tua, nothing's broken. He's not going to be out for very long. And Miami can keep rolling along and pretending like they have no interest in Deshaun Watson. But to me, Greg, to put a bow on it, I think it's just more about Deshaun digging his heels in and holding firm and not wanting to play. Because at this point, I think with this Texans team, if he wanted to get out there, you got to let him go. Because good things can come of it.
Absolutely. So that's kind of surprising.
I mean, the worst that can happen is some deep dug up evidence gets uncovered, and now Deshaun Watson was to get criminally charged. But to me, I honestly believe that I don't think that evidence should be this hard to find. To me, it just sounds like there's a bunch of he says, she said that could go this way, could go that way, but ultimately it's going to end up in a stalemate, which is where it's been for the past several months now.
I know. And again, I've been wanting to see him back on the field until that matter gets resolved. I mean, the NFL, they haven't come up with any kind of resolution to that matter yet. So it could be what you're saying. Maybe he just does not want to play for the Texans ever again.
Oh, I guarantee you that's what it is. He does not want to play.
Right. But what's going to be interesting is, and I've said that before the season, that, he doesn't want to play for him because of this reason and that reason. But what's going to be interesting
and especially when he's still
getting
paid.
Better. Right. Bingo. He's still getting paid, and it's going to be interesting to see if they continue to win and he sees their playoff chances, if he feels that he can be the difference in the playoff run, if he changes his tune a bit. So we shall see. But the Texans roll on with Davis Mills this week.
But he would be risking, falling in love again with teammates and building bonds with guys that if ultimately he doesn't want to be there long term, that he's ultimately going to have to break. And maybe that's what's made it. If he came
back and played, I think he would be like, okay, I'm willing to stay.
Maybe that's what's made it, or maybe that's what's forced him to not want to come back, because building those relationships, building those bonds again, being the guy that he's shown to be on the football field. Yeah, I don't think he would feel comfortable doing that to his teammates, and he may stay even at the detriment, to to what really would make him happy. So in order to keep that from happening, I believe that him and David Mulligetta probably in particular is going to do everything he can to keep Deshaun Watson from ever stepping on a football field again in the Texans uniform.
Well, you know what? We'll see, and that wouldn't be surprising at all. But we haven't heard anything from anybody, from Deshaun, from anybody specifically pertaining to that situation, other than the fact that he's inactive, or
right.
he's not, or he's this, or he's that. So,
but see, every time they asked Culley, when they asked him after the Cleveland game if there was a chance Deshaun Watson would play, his response was, "Well, we'll have to see."
I remember that.
And that just makes me wonder if they're like getting on the phone, Deshaun, you down to get down? And they're like, nope. And so he's out.
Or if he's getting on the phone with the owner and they're saying, no, we're gonna chill right now. I like the direction we're headed. We're doing some things good without him. You have the pulse of the team. You have them going in the right direction. Let's just keep that Deshaun fiasco on the back burner for now and just let's proceed. So I don't know. But I do remember those comments as well. So that is kind of interesting. But moving on real quick, of course, we have a lot of NFL to talk about, other games. But my Cowboys, you know what, Eddie? I have mixed feelings. Well, I have good feelings about what I'm saying from the Cowboys, other than some penalties here and there. Now, we were talking about the decision. I'm still tripping on a decision that Mike McCarthy made to not try to get any more yardage. Now, he had all these excuses about he didn't see the clock and this and that in this past game against the Chargers. But you have to try to get closer. You can't expect this guy to make a 56-yard field goal all the time. If you can get another play to where you can make it like a 40-yard field goal or a 35-yard field goal, you do that. But that goes back to what I was saying last year about Mike McCarthy. That's why I don't believe in the stuff he was saying about he couldn't see the clock and this and that. Someone was shielding him. He's made those boneheaded decisions. It's almost like he turns into another guy in situations like that. Like he's Coach McCarthy until it's a situation like that, and then he turns into Coach Bobo or somebody. It's like, man, who is this guy, man? What are you... Coach McCarthy, come back. Who is this? Dude, what are you thinking? It's like he loses himself in those situations. Luckily, Greg Zuerlein bailed him out. But
after a shaky week one, after what was a real shaky week one for Greg Zuerlein.
Exactly. Then you're going to do that after a shaky week one. Exactly. So,
kudos to him for bouncing back, because they were talking about running his ass out of town.
Hey, well, I was one of them that was ready. Trust me. And if that would have been Jimmy Johnson, he probably would have been gone after the Tampa game, knowing Jimmy Johnson. But I thought they played well against Tampa. Should have won that game. And I'm not a moral victory type of guy, because at the end of the day, in the loss column, it counts as a loss. And as the season goes on, these losses mount up. And, of course, you're trying to vie for a playoff spot. So, okay, that's a loss. Now, granted, you're playing in a division this year that's not going to be as good as you would like. Oh, well, as far as the Cowboys are concerned, you would hope that they're not as good as that. But the Giants are 0-2. The Eagles, now they're 1-1, even though I like what I've seen from Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. And, I love that combination. I've never been one to wonder what's up with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is their franchise quarterback, period. So that's not even a question right there. Now, we'll see what they do moving forward. And, of course, the Washington football team. We'll see what they do. Now you have Fitzpatrick out. But the Cowboys, I thought they played well against Tampa. But when you have a team, Tampa, and we'll talk about them in a second, Tampa, you have a team that you have you force 4 turnovers. You have to be able to win that game. And that's why I say I don't like more victories in that situation, because you forced 4 turnovers in that situation. Now, you had a couple of turnovers yourself, but all in all, they lost that game. Okay, that is what it is, but you have to be able to win that game. But what I like when I saw them play that game, I like what I saw on both sides of the ball. I like what Dan Quinn is doing. I like the way the defense is playing. They're in the right position. They're all playing at a high level. They're hustling. I like the energy, like I was saying about the Texans. I like the confidence. And in this last game against the Chargers, now it's a situation where I feel bad, too, because my first cousin is the wide receivers coach for the San Diego Chargers, Chris Beatty, who will probably be a head coach one day, an offensive coordinator, then a head coach one day, in my opinion. He's that good. Coached Percy Harvin in high school, coached at West Virginia, coached at Wisconsin, Maryland. So he's made his way to the NFL as a wide receivers coach, and he has those receivers playing at a high level. Of course, he inherited some great talent over there in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Chargers. But so I feel bad. It's kind of like a win-win. Now, of course, I would like to see I would have liked to see my Cowboys get off the schneid, which they did, because you can't go 0-2. I hated the fact that they had to do it against my first cuz in the Chargers, who is now my team in the AFC, because I'm pulling for him, and I'm pulling for him to have success. Again, he has some great receivers on that team. And the Chargers, if they were not such a young team and made a lot of mistakes themselves, the Cowboys would have had a hard time even escaping that game. So they have to find a way to build off of that game as well, cut back on their turnovers. But I like what I'm seeing in the run game. Tony Pollard right now, Eddie, he's looking like a guy who may just be the guy before Zeke now. Now, Zeke is going to start. They're paying Zeke all his money. Don't get me wrong. I still think Zeke can be a monster. Still think Zeke can be a beast. But Tony Pollard gives you that extra dimension. And I want to see them split carries in that regard, because he gives you that extra explosion right now that Zeke probably doesn't have. I still want to see Zeke break out in the open and see if he can take it to the house. But Zeke is Zeke at this point in his career. Tony Pollard is Tony Pollard. So I'm saying play Tony Pollard. Play him as much as possible without taking food from Zeke. Let both of them eat, because it's only going to better the Cowboys' chances of winning. Dak is looking great, of course. Again, the Cowboys, if they cut off on the turnovers and things of that sort, but what I like, they're making plays. They have playmakers on both sides of the ball. We know what their receivers can do. We know what the receivers can do. We know, I love what I'm seeing from all three receivers right now. Michael Gallup was out last game. But on the defensive side of the ball, Trayvon Diggs, who I said maybe looks better at free safety, maybe I was wrong in that regard. He's going to be a great cornerback, and he's proven to be that already this year. And they played without their two starting defensive ends this past week, and Randy Gregory and Dexter Lawrence. So just imagine if they had those guys when those guys get back. And that's why I was impressed, because the Cowboys went into that game, and they looked at it as a must-win, and they found a way to get the job done, even though the Los Angeles Chargers, helped them out with some untimely penalties. And that's just youth. The Chargers are going to be great. They're 1-1 right now. They're going to have a great team moving forward, in my opinion. They're a team to be reckoned with. But what I'm seeing from the Cowboys, I love what I'm seeing on the defensive side of the ball. They're making plays now, and I feel real good about their prospects moving forward this season. I really do. And what was I saying about Michael Parsons? Michael Parsons, what did I say right after they drafted him, Eddie? I said, you asked me, you said, where should they play Michael Parsons? I said, I don't care where you play him. You put him on the field, and you let him cause havoc all over the field. And that's exactly what he did last game. And I think his pressure on the quarterback against Justin Herbert, that last one they said was a sack, probably wasn't a sack. But what happened, in my opinion, was he was so relentless that game, I think he put it in the ref's hands right there, where the refs were even like, because I was saying to myself, this guy has to get a sack this game. He's getting to the quarterback way too often. He is trying to finish this game with at least a sack. He didn't get one in the first game. They moved to the defensive end that game. But I'm saying, this dude he's going to do everything in his power to get a sack. But when I tell you this guy is relentless and he is a dog on the defensive side of the ball, that's why when he made that play on Justin Herbert and they called it a sack, I said, that's a situation right there where that just got built up from how aggressive he's been, and he just put it in the ref's hands right there. And I think the ref was even like, hold on, bro, we got to get this dude a sack, man. This dude is off the charts. So, hey, I like what I'm seeing from the Cowboys moving forward now.
I think that's why they like him at that Sam side linebacker.
And he may end up staying over there.
They get him matched up, and they can put him down, put his hand in the dirt and
go
blitz
get the quarterback.
from the outside linebacker position there, where you may get him matched up on a tight end, and he let his athleticism do the work. To touch on the Chargers real quick, they're playing well on defense. They've had some tough games, two tough NFC East games, one against Washington and then one against Dallas. Both games, both teams are 20 points or under. And I just feel like this offense that last year seemed to be so explosive is now struggling, in life or adjusting to life without Pep Hamilton. I think they're realizing that Anthony Lynn and Pep Hamilton were a big part of why Justin Herbert played so well. Now you still see the tools and everything's there, but the offense just lacks luster, And I know Austin Eckler has been up and down. He needs, a complimentary guy to really help. I know they like Jackson, but still with Eckler, not being quite 100%, it makes me wonder if that offense is going to be able to put up enough points.
They need to put my cousin at offensive coordinator.
Here we
put
go.
him there now.
Here we go.
But but you know what? But now, hey, cuz I hate y'all lost against my Cowboys, man. But hey, I tell you what, y'all prospects look good moving forward. And I like what the Chargers are doing. I like what you all are doing up there. I like what you're doing. And I like the way you coached up your receiver when he made that Keenan Allen, when he made that penalty. He made that penalty, and I think it was taunting, and he came to the sideline. My cousin was in his ear telling him calmly, hey, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, well,
and,
the taunting penalties have been a little bit out of control. I think we saw Farrell Brown get one against Cleveland for the Texans that was just laughable. All he did was spin the football on the ground. That's ridiculous. These taunting penalties.
These guys are playing with high emotion.
They're trying to put an emphasis on it this year, and really, I don't think it's working out for them, and it's looking bad on the league. It's forcing teams to get 15-yard penalties in terrible situations.
At crucial times.
It really
back-breaking penalties.
Yeah, it really hurt the Texans this weekend. So, hopefully that rule will die, quickly. I would hate for us to have to endure an entire season of it, like the pass interference rule. They, one season, then it was done. Hopefully, maybe they can cut this one out a little bit sooner. I don't know. I don't agree with the rule at all. Yeah. But going back to the Cowboys, I do want to talk about Zeke a little bit. I don't know if I still feel as good about Zeke. I know he's in great shape. Okay. He just doesn't seem to be that explosive. But look, don't get me wrong. There's no doubt in my mind that this offense does not need to let Tony Pollard take over. There's a reason why Tony Pollard is able to have the success that he does, and it's because Zeke can go in there and take some of the big hits. True. He can run, get some of the tough yards in between the tackles, and then that allows
down the defense some.
Yeah, and that allows a fresh Pollard to shine.
Yeah, I say let them both play.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong. Zeke may not be putting up the big gaudy numbers that he normally does, but his role is still very important. And if he can get going, which I don't feel like he still hasn't really been able to do, if he can get going, I think I'm going to like the prospects of that running game a whole lot more. But either way, Tony Pollard definitely is on the rise. I just don't feel like Pollard is the number one guy.
Yeah, well, I think
he's got number one talent, but he needs to be that change of. There you go.
Right, and Zeke is still that guy in my opinion. And Zeke, the only way you will see Zeke get his 100 yards, 120 yards, excuse me. The only way you would see Zeke get that is if you give him the ball like 20 times a game. But if he gets 11 carries a game, that's not going to happen. So they're going to split carries in that regard, so he's going to have to get used to splitting carries. Right. But the only way Zeke eats like he likes to eat is if he gets the ball 20 to 25 times a game. And with the Cowboys passing game and with Tony Pollard's emergence, I just don't see where that's going to happen right now at this point. And all of a sudden, it's like the wind just hit me right now.
I don't know. They've got some issues on the offensive line still. But we'll see. Things can turn, on a dime. Zeke could all of a sudden, catch a second wind or something, rejuvenation. Who knows? The offensive line could play better. But right now it looks like, a mix of Ezekiel Elliott along with Tony Pollard. Let the running game more be the focus and let that set up Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb in the passing game. CeeDee Lamb, who I've been very impressed with. The dropsies did not carry over from Hard Knocks or into the next week or into the season. I feel like he's played extremely well, and he shows you why they drafted him where they did. But we'll see. We'll see with the Cowboys. Another team, Greg, that's really surprised me, and I know we'll get to talk about it a little bit, is the Las Vegas Raiders. Vegas, all of a sudden now, they're looking like they may give the Chiefs a run for their money. Now, we know how well they played them last year, and this team, to me, last year's Vegas team, to me, is far inferior, and it all starts with the play of Derek Carr. Derek Carr's been phenomenal, and to me, John Gruden he knew exactly what he was doing from the jump when he started building this roster and started building this team. And now you're looking at guys like Hunter Renfro, tearing it up out there.
Put up a
Darren
damn show last
Waller,
week. Right.
what's that?
They're
They
2-0
beat
now.
a very good Pittsburgh team. After winning.
Are they very good? We're
I
going to
mean,
see how Big Ben continues.
I think that on defense, they're hurting with
TJ Watt is not
TJ
out
Watt.
the door.
But defensively, we know they're solid. And then on offense, as long as Big Ben's playing well, I mean, they're going to score the football. But this Las Vegas Raiders offense under Derek Carr so far this year, they look like they're not going to be afraid to open things up when they need to. But it seems like every time they're in, a third and maybe an unmanageable situation, Gruden has that play, or they'll go to the big Waller even if he's double covered, and they just have the horses, it seems like, to run with anybody if they continue playing this well.
Yeah.
I mean, Pittsburgh, I'm not going to say, we don't know if they're a very good team yet,
Right.
but we all know what they can
But
be
they're still
whenever
Pittsburgh.
everybody's healthy.
Right.
Ben
They're still
Roethlisberger is healthy. They're still a threat. At any given time, Claypool could go off for a handful of touchdowns
Absolutely.
in a game. We know they have weapons and how dangerous they are.
They need to
And
get
I was
Najee Harris
impressed
going.
after playing on Monday night, coming back on a short week. Not real short. It's not Thursday, but coming back on a short week and then handling a Pittsburgh team that was feeling like, hey, man, we're off to a good start. Let's keep this thing rolling. And they shut that down.
Yeah,
So
they did.
I've just been
And
impressed.
Right. I mean, I have as well. And I want John Gruden to succeed. I'm on record saying that this is the make or break a year for him. So he's starting out 2-0 right now. I'm sure he's feeling real good about himself and his team, where he has them going, the direction he has them going in. And one thing now, they built that team. They drafted Henry Ruggs. You see that long touchdown pass that he
did.
had. So now they're opening things up because they, like the Raiders of old, they want to make you pay by the deep ball. Cliff Branch days and Just Win Baby days from Al Davis. And if you can throw the long ball to Henry Ruggs, and open things up and really open things up for that offense, and not just Henry Ruggs, but whoever else they have out there. You talked about Waller. He's a guy that's targeted a whole lot. He's probably behind Kelsey and maybe the guy in San Francisco. He's a top 3 tight end in this league.
Clearly.
Top 2 or 3 tight end in
Yeah.
this league. And you have Waller right there who can run any route, can get down the field, run seam routes, run deep crossing routes.
He's
run
fast
flag
and he's
routes.
big.
Yes. Yeah, so you have him, and if Henry Ruggs cannot have the dropsies and he can stay healthy, and he's a guy that can continue to take the top off of the defense and also make the catch once the ball is thrown to him, that's only going to bode well for Derek Carr. You get the run game going. John Gruden, he's always loved the run game. So he definitely wants to be physical. No matter who he has on his teams are going to be predicated on physicality.
And another thing is also they're going to be, they're smart. He's smart. He knows how to at least have, it seems like in his back pocket so far each week, one big crucial shot play that he's going to go to at any given point in the game, and they're going to hit it, it looks like. And then it seems like I said, in these third down situations are certain particular points in the game when they need a big play. It seems like John dials up the right stuff. He knows what those defenses are doing. He's a guy, we talk about like the maniacs in the game, the mad scientist type guys. That's John Gruden. He's always in the film room. This is all he
I
does.
thought he was a great coach.
And I think
Superb.
right now he is dialed in big time. And I can't wait till they match up against the Chiefs and we figure out exactly where this Vegas team is at.
Yeah, now the Chiefs did lose to Baltimore. We could talk about that in a second. That was a great game by Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, what can you do when eight goes off like that?
I know, making sure that they did not go down 0-2. But if I had to pick in the playoff game, I would still pick Kansas City. But, of course, it's the regular season in Baltimore. Lamar put them on his back. We'll talk about that in a second. But since you're talking about John Gruden real quick, I just want to talk about Tom Brady and the job that he's doing. It is crazy what this guy is doing at 44 years old, man. Eddie, I'm 51 years old, bro, and 44 is not that far back. And I couldn't see myself nowhere near a football field at 44. Granted, he's playing quarterback, but, bro, are you serious what this guy is doing at 44? When he said he wanted to play till he's 50, this guy is just different, man. I can see him playing till he's 50. I really can, because I hadn't seen any loss of arm strength, anything off of that velocity. The guys are protecting him, and he's the type of guy. He has so much respect from the league. I mean, guys are going to, if they can get to him, they're going to tackle him. But it's almost like after you sack him a couple of times, you're almost like looking at him like, oh man, I don't want to tackle Tom Brady. And you know, Brady.
I'm not going to get invited to his Christmas party.
I'm not going to get invited to his Christmas party. And Tom is the type of guy, you sack him pretty hard, he get up. Why you hit me so hard? I'm freaking Tom Brady, all right? But this guy throws a temper tantrum if you tackle him too hard. But to go along, having said all that, his offensive line is doing a great job. He has great receivers. They're getting open. I mean, this guy has 9 touchdowns, Eddie, in his first 2 games.
Think about it. 4 of them are to one Rob Gronkowski, who, if you thought Rob was just here to ride the coattails and tag along to just try to win Super Bowls, this Rob Gronkowski looks like he's going to compete for comeback player of the year.
Antonio Brown. I mean, what is he, 32, 33? And that's what I talk about. If a guy trains hard, Antonio Brown probably trains harder than a guy 23, 24. He's probably in better shape than those guys. This guy, you saw what he did against Dallas. I'm saying to myself, he's back.
Well, they're certainly a well-ran team, but I'm going to still curb my expectations, or just like not before I'm all back in. Like, hey, they're going all the way again this year.
Say that.
But you could. You can make a case.
Yeah,
they've looked.
They are the defending champs.
They're the defending champs. They brought back
Atlanta
everybody. They have
to the last couple of interceptions by Mike Edwards.
They have the most Super Bowl winning quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't bet against
but
them.
I will tell you what. Whenever they play, when that Fox game of the week, which I'm sure it's going to be, I don't know for sure, but I'm certain they should have it like the Rams and Bucks 3:25 next Sunday. That's going to tell me where this Bucks team is at, because especially with Brady, whenever you have that fierce front four, a guy like Aaron Donald. Traditionally, over the years, those teams with those big guys up front, those types of guys have been able to force Tom Brady to have average games, and then that's how you beat the guy. It seems like the only way. I think the Cowboys team was just ill-prepared to take advantage of the opportunities that were gifted to them.
You can't cause 4 turnovers.
But the Falcons may be, we may call them the Jaguars of Georgia. They're probably, 32A and 32B when we talk about worst team in the NFL.
Right.
But this Rams, if they go in there and they impose their will, or Brady imposes his will on the Rams, then you're going to have to start talking about this team, being the favorite in the NFC.
Oh, well, you know what? Honestly, you
for sure,
should
3
talk
games
about them
in.
being the favorite in the NFC, just because they have everybody back from last year's team, and Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, who hasn't lost, who hasn't missed a beat whatsoever. Then you have guys back like Gronk and Antonio Brown, who's looking like both are looking like they're playing at the prime years of their like they're playing in their prime.
Yeah.
And so both of those guys look like they're all the way back. They look like they have their legs back. That's a year in the system now that they've learned the system. They can settle down, and you have those 2 guys added to what you already had. And just think about it. They haven't even gotten O.J. Howard going yet. So, but it will be a test this week against the Rams team, a Rams team that I've been very impressed with. Now, when I say Tampa should be the favorite, I'm talking about because they're the champions until someone beats them. But of course, you have to put the Rams up there right now too.
Well, yeah, I mean,
with Matthew Stafford, with the way he's playing in that Sean McVay offense, with what he's able to do with Robert Woods and Kupp and those guys, man. I mean, they look formidable as well. Of course, you have the defense. So we'll see what Brady does against that defense.
The Rams, Matt Stafford, going after Matt Stafford, people thought the price was too high. But, Sean McVay and company over there, they knew that if they had a guy like Matt Stafford, that completely takes any training wheels that they had or any limitations, any red tape that they had in their playbook whatsoever, immediately gets removed whenever you insert a Matthew Stafford. And then on top of that, just his general understanding and the ability of him and Sean McVay to put their heads together and understand what defenses are trying to do to them, what they like to do in certain situations, and then scheming up plays to put their best players in those areas of the field where Matthew Stafford knows is already going to be open. They know you like to run cover two in this situation. They're going to go into the wide open hole and cover two. They're going to find a way to get their best guy matched up maybe on one of your not very good guys and then get him open. I mean, we see it time and time again. Now, it's unfortunate that so far we haven't been able to see the running back position really get going for the Rams because I think should truly be a contender. Really yeah, that hurt them. But, it's time for Darrell Henderson, to step up. All right, they've really liked him ever since they drafted him, drafted him. He needs to get going. He's off to another, pedestrian start. Yeah. For this offense to really be considered the legitimate contender in the NFC or a legitimate contender, especially if you're going to unseat the best to ever do it, they're going to need to be, multifaceted. They can't afford to go into, a game against Brady or against a really talented defense like the Buccaneers in the playoffs and be forced to go one-dimensional because you can pass the ball as well as you want. I think Matthew Stafford has shown us over the years, all those tough years, even when they had good teams in Detroit, if they couldn't run the football, their chances of competing in big games just was limited to none. It don't matter if Matthew Stafford is passing for 500 yards every game. You got to be able to control the clock when you need to control the clock, and you got to keep the defense honest.
And keep Tom Brady off the field. Speaking of Tom Brady,
yeah, there you go.
This upcoming week, I mean, it's a situation like this to where that defensive line is going to get after Tom Brady. So the game plan for Tom Brady. Tom is like, you're not going to touch me. I mean, he's going to have quick release. I'm talking about like as soon as the ball gets in his hands, it's out. So the thing about it is what the Rams are going to do with the best cornerback in the league. I'm going to tell you who else is going to be a great cornerback, man. Little dude for the Chargers, Samuel's son.
Asante Samuel Jr.?
Asante Samuel Jr., man. Look, Asante Samuel is going to be special.
Is he junior or is he the third or second? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
It is
Samuel's
Asante
son,
Samuel.
Yeah. But he's going to be a ball hawk like his dad. I mean, this guy's going to be special. But you have Jalen Ramsey over there, so they're going to be playing a lot of press coverage because they know that Tampa is going to want to go quick. They know they're going to try to do a lot of quick routes. But where Tom Brady is going to make his hay in this game, you think Gronk has really gotten used thus far? He's really going to be looking for Gronk this game because that pass rush is going to be coming. He's going to be looking for an outlet. He's going to be looking for Leonard Fournette out of the backfield. He's going to be looking for what's the other running back name? Ronald Jones, the third out of the backfield. So, and then he's going to take his shots when need be, but it's going to be predicated on if they can keep Big Aaron Donald and those guys out of the backfield. So that is going to be a test for Tampa. But the game plan for Tampa is going to be two-step drop, quick hitch, quick passes, quick slants, get the ball out of his hands, quick fade to keep the defense honest to Mike Evans. So we'll see who comes out in that game, who comes out in victorious.
Now, another thing I wanted to ask you. So Aaron Rodgers didn't get off to a great start this season. We know how week one went. Week two, some call it a bounce-back game. Not everybody's sold. I mean, the Lions, there for a moment, may have looked like they were going to, hand Aaron Rodgers his second loss of the season. Now, I know in the second half, they were a different football team, it seemed like. But I'm not so sure if Aaron Rodgers has still shown me that MVP caliber. Now, we can talk about Aaron Jones all day. Aaron Jones went off. But there's a lot to prove for this Green Bay team still. They're going into a big matchup this Sunday against the 49ers. 49ers a little bit reeling at the running back position. They've had injuries, to Mostert. But they not only did they lose Mostert last Sunday for a point in time, for a while, they lost Mitchell, and then they also lost Sermon. So they were really limited at the running back position, still able to pull the game out. They lost Sermon too.
Year?
No. I'm talking about in the game last week.
Okay.
They were down. They were down almost all their running backs. It was Hasty most of the way.
Okay.
I have to look at the injury report, see where they're going to be at. I can definitely think they expect Sermon to be well enough to play. I don't know about Mitchell. Mostert is going to be out
for the season.
Mostert's out for the season. How do you see this one shaking out, Greg? Jimmy Garoppolo is still starting for the 49ers, but they've looked good. Deebo Samuel's been going off. George Kittle is still, like you said, a top 3 tight end earlier in the show. If the Packers are to be the Packers that I thought they were coming into this season, I picked them to go to the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl again. If they're going to be those Packers, then they need to win this game against the 49ers. If they don't, if Jimmy Garoppolo and company hand it to the Packers, then you can go ahead and throw that prediction out the window. And then people are going to start talking about whether or not it's Aaron Rodgers' fault for causing so much fuss in the offseason, or if this still, the same old story, if this is still a relationship between head coach and quarterback that just isn't going to work and it's bleeding out onto the field. They had a good game, but I think that was a far inferior team they beat last night.
Right.
The 49ers, this is a team we all know the roster may be built for the Super Bowl. The moment Trey Lance is ready to elevate his game to starter caliber, then they may blast off. But right now, they're still a very well-rounded football team offensively and defensively. They've proven to be a problem for Aaron Rodgers in the past. So, if he doesn't show up, another primetime game, if he doesn't show up and have a really good game, people are going to start asking questions about how prepared Aaron Rodgers really was for this season.
That's a good point right there. And the thing about it is, like I've been saying all along, and I'll continue to say it. Now, I don't know how this year is going to play out but again, in my opinion, the head coach wants to move on from Aaron Rodgers. I know he's the former MVP, and I know coming to the season, he probably gives you the best chance to win. But whatever the case is, as far as them not being on the same page, whatever it may be that we may never know, I think he's ready to give the reins to Jordan Love, where he can coach this guy up, where he can be the guy where if they win, it's going to be about him. I honestly believe they were put in a situation where they faced so much public scrutiny to where they had to acquiesce to Aaron Rodgers, and they had to make it like, okay, we really want it back. I said since day one, I really didn't think that they really wanted Aaron Rodgers back, as crazy as that may sound. Now, as far as now, he came back last night and played a good game. He looked like Aaron Rodgers in the second half, but he doesn't look like he's all the way there. Aaron Rodgers is so cool out there the way he plays. He takes his chin strap off after every play. He sits back there like the world is his, and he drops back and he slings the ball around the field, and then he takes his chin strap back off and all this and that. We'll see how the season plays out, but San Francisco 49ers, Nick Bosa and those guys are going to get after him. And as far as the other side of the ball, the 49ers are going to try to run the ball. And they're going to use Jimmy Garoppolo when needed, play action passes and things of that sort.
Target them big tight ends, get Deebo Samuel.
Absolutely.
They do a real good job of getting Deebo.
Well.
They get Deebo Samuel in space with blockers. They do a good job of setting up plays in that offense that'll have Deebo Samuel coming across the middle of the field on a dig, and then have secondary routes deeper in the field where all of a sudden Deebo Samuel is now in space with 49ers down the field to block for him, and that's potential for home runs, almost at any given time.
And Jimmy Garoppolo.
Go ahead.
Jimmy Garoppolo, and this is what I said when they said that they were going to give Jimmy Garoppolo a chance to play. I said he's another year removed from the knee injury. Last year he was 1 year removed from that knee injury. Now he's another year removed from that knee injury, so he doesn't have to really concern himself with that knee right now. So he can sit back. They paid him all that money for a reason. So when people were saying that
when they're nipping at your heels,
start,
when someone's nipping at your heels,
and then
Greg,
that raises your level to play as well. And the fact that he has another guy behind him right there, but the fact
seat is hot. You got fire under your ass.
The fact that they kept him on the squad and relegated him. They said you're the starter. I think that just motivated him even more to show, hey, I'm going to show you all why you pay me all this money and why you initially thought that I was your franchise quarterback. And if you're going to put this guy in, it's not going to be because of my performance. It's going to be because you just want him in the game.
Right, to have a different package.
Yes. So Jimmy Garoppolo, he's getting in there, and he's playing like Jimmy Garoppolo can play. He has the weapons around him. He has the talent around him. He has a great offensive mind in head coach Shanahan. And so he's living up to the billing right now. So it's not surprising when I see the stats from Jimmy Garoppolo. Right. Now, where Trey Lance fits into that, we will see moving forward. They're going to incorporate him into the game. Right. They're going to use him in certain run plays, certain pass plays to get him going. But
it's amazing, Greg, what kind of motivation that can be when you have a young, talented quarterback that's a first-round draft pick. And even though he's on the roster and, everybody's going to be clamoring for him to go, the organization is still going to give you an opportunity to, allow that transition to be a little more fluid and not so abrupt. That shows that they still have tremendous confidence in his ability to run the offense and this understanding of what Kyle Shanahan does, which is very important when you're running an offense that is complex and deep like Shanahan's is. It could, we talked about it could be, all about them just wanting to give Lance as much time as possible to absorb as much of that playbook as he possibly can, because they know they're going to need every bit of it to beat the best teams in the league. They're probably going to need it to go really deep this weekend if they're going to beat the Packers, especially if Aaron Rodgers comes out on fire, But Jimmy Garoppolo, it just shows to me, he's a competitor and a gamer, and he knows that everyone in the city is always going to be clamoring for that guy, for that number one pick, for the electric, athletic quarterback, the guy that can be transcendent. And some guys will respond to that. Other guys will succumb, whether it be for injury or other reasons. We can transition right along, and it looks like this weekend we're going to get to see Justin Fields have his first start of the year. When they ultimately, who are they going to take on this week? Is it going to be the Browns? So Bears and Browns, and Justin Fields could get, it's looking like with that knee injury. Speaking of knee injuries earlier, Andy Dalton, no tear in the knee, yet he does have a sprain, and his question for the weekend is up in the air. Once jobs get turned over to these young guys, just ask Tyrod Taylor. Is his ass ever going to come back out of the game? It's just probably never going to happen. Everybody's going to get what they've been asking for in Chicago, and that's going to be for full-time Justin Fields. And how it goes is definitely, I'm excited for how it's going to go. I just hope they're ready to protect the kid. I don't want to see him take some shots like he took early in the preseason. Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Now, one thing about it, the head coach did say that if Andy Dalton is healthy, he will be the starter. So he nipped that in the bud right there to let everyone know if Andy Dalton is healthy, he will be the starter this upcoming week. Now, with that being said, if Justin Fields goes out there and performs the way all Chicago fans, and I hope he should perform, and I hope he will perform, he will never relinquish that job in his tenure at Chicago. So we shall see how it goes. But, again, these guys are going to go through some growing pains. Again, you look at Zach Wilson. You look at Trevor Lawrence. You look at these guys. But I'm all about, again, playing and learning on the fly. So I'm not expecting Justin Fields to go in there and be an all-pro quarterback his rookie year. Of course he's going to make some mistakes. He threw an interception last game. He was 6 for 13 for 60 yards. He had some good runs. But he showed you the dynamic that he brings to that team. And if you give him a full game, a full week of reps with the ones, he's your best playmaker on the field, period. He's your best playmaker on the field on the offensive side of the ball. So whatever that means. Yeah.
He's also your biggest asset.
He's also your biggest asset moving forward. So you need to take care of him. But he needs to know how to take care of himself as well. But again, I'm all about go play ball.
Andy Dalton's going to put on the bionic leg this weekend and get out there. No way he's thinking of letting Justin Fields get on the field because, just the truth is, unless he struggles really bad, he being Fields, unless he struggles really bad in this opportunity this weekend, if he gets it, if he plays well, they're never going to take him out of there. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
It's detrimental if you do.
Right. Because you can't insert your future franchise quarterback in there and then take him out
when he has success.
When he has success, especially. So, and even if the success is not necessarily a win, but he has success as far as the way he played the game, that particular game. But one thing Justin Fields has to realize, when he does get in there and play, as much as those fans have been clamoring for him, as much as Chicago fans have been cheering him every time he runs into the game, as soon as he falters, they're going to turn on him. They're going to turn. So he has to be cognizant of the fact that as soon as he throws a couple of picks or has a couple of bad games in a row, all those guys are not going to be his friends like he thought they were. So he has to already be ready for the onslaught of criticism if he falters out the gate. And he just has to withstand that and continue to get better, realizing that he has the goods and that he has what it takes to be a successful quarterback. So as long as he realizes that and he doesn't get too low in the lows and doesn't get too high in the highs, and he keeps a level head and he stays even keel and he continues to learn, continues to work, play the game smart, his athletic ability and all that will speak for itself, and he will make some plays. So we shall see. Now, we said we were going to talk about Baltimore and Kansas City. It's nothing really to talk about other than Lamar Jackson put them on their back, and that's what it is. What do you like their chances? How do you like their chances moving forward, though?
Baltimore?
Yeah.
To me, this
With
offense.
the injuries I'm speaking of.
Yeah, I know they got some tougher injuries at the running back position, but look, this Williams kid, he's come in and he's played really well. You immediately thought, that Le'Veon Bell or Latavius Murray were going to take over the starting role when they were brought in. But no, it's been this Williams kid, and he's played extremely well. I think there's something there. It gives a lot of credence to their ability to develop running backs at the running back position. It almost seems like it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. Give me another one. They've had multiple. Who's that kid? Hill. They've got Justice Hill. It doesn't matter who it is. They always seem to go in there and still be a threat in the running game, and that's continued with the young Williams. But what I like is the way they have allowed Lamar Jackson to be more involved in throwing the football at multiple levels. For so often it was just they focused on the tight end a lot. You were going to read, we were going to use the tight ends because we like the matchups that we're getting on the defense, the linebackers, the safeties. We like those better than the matchups on the outside. But no, now, Brown, he was almost an afterthought in the offense last year. This year, Brown is, he is the main go-to guy in that passing game. It's no longer Mark Andrews. And then now that they've done that, what I like is the growth that I've seen from Lamar Jackson in his ability inside the pocket. Is he still perfect? No. Sometimes we'll see him sell one. Sometimes his feet get a little funky. But he's done a really good job of staring down the pressure and not always allowing it to flush him completely out of the pocket. Staying in the pocket and still leaving some of those throws over the middle of the field open to him, like the one he made where he made the jump pass against the Chiefs, the jump pass to Brown. That was an incredible play. I feel like with that pocket sort of collapsing around him, the old Lamar Jackson would have just hightailed it out on the edge and then would have saw some daylight and maybe just ran for a first down. But no, he stayed. He absorbed the pressure. He let it come in around him without getting too panicked, and then he made a tremendous athletic play.
Kept his eyes downfield.
Yeah, to get the ball to Brown, and that was a big touchdown in that game. So that's what I've been most impressed with. And so this isn't going to be the same Ravens team when playoff times come where you can just put the clamps down on their running and read option game and think you're going to be able to handle them. Now, all of a sudden, this is a Ravens offense where I feel like they're able to stretch you from sideline to sideline and do some things that could catch you off guard with the likes of the athletes that they have.
And the fact that they were able to win that game against Kansas City, they're only going to build more confidence. That's only going to build more confidence in that team. Again, like you were saying, I like the fact that Lamar Jackson is playing with that confidence now that he can make every throw. The fact that they're letting him make every throw, and he's actually delivering. And they're going to get healthier. Think about Sammy Watkins. You have that added element.
Right.
They're using Marquise Brown. So you're threatening people with receivers now, and that just opens the offense up tremendously.
I like
the fact that Harbaugh had confidence when Lamar Jackson said, let's go for it on fourth and one right here.
Right.
I'm a Lamar Jackson fan, man. I like Lamar Jackson now. Lamar Jackson, if you listen to Lamar Jackson, from someone from the outside looking in, you might, he's not, he doesn't sound real intelligent or he doesn't sound this articulate. The guy is a very intelligent guy, very smart guy, a great personality. The players love him. You haven't seen Lamar Jackson getting any trouble since he's been in the NFL.
Yeah.
All this, where he's from the hood in Miami, blah, blah, blah. This guy has done all the right things, tremendous character, a great leader for the Baltimore Ravens. I love his character. I love the way he carries himself. He never gets too low after a loss. He's always holding himself accountable. He doesn't blame anything on he takes responsibility. He doesn't blame anything on anyone else, and he always looks to get better. After that first game that they lost, he just came in and said, hey, I could have did this, I could have did that. We need to get better. And it was a devastating loss. Came in that second game, found a way to beat the mighty Kansas City Chiefs. And now they're off and running, and they feel that their chances are better than anyone. But that shows you the great leadership that he has and the way that his players and his teammates follow him. Yeah. And I love what I'm saying from Lamar Jackson. Yeah, I just love him as a person, bro.
You said it right there. The leadership skills are what are really starting to shine now for Lamar Jackson. He's no longer this piece that you may feel like Baltimore has to protect or carry along in certain instances. You know they're going to win with a strong running game. Lamar Jackson doesn't have to throw the football, this, that, and the other. Those days are completely over. I really loved the way John Harbaugh, whenever he had an opportunity to win that game, go for it. Look, if this is a playoff game, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure they do that. But look, let's face it. Early in the season, right now, they needed that game more than the Chiefs did.
Yeah, they did.
All right, they really did. Coming off a tough loss against the Raiders, and then now what would have been another tough loss against the Chiefs. They really needed that game, and it's hard to get the football back to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, just
that's where I was going to go.
Yeah, it's really hard. But you know that if you do not convert that, you are losing the football game. That is it.
All they needed was a field goal.
Over. But I love the way
they get it in chunk plays.
I love the
30
way.
30 yards of Kelsey, 20 yards of Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. We've seen it all before, but I just love the way that John Harbaugh put it on his young quarterback to if there was any doubts about any leadership with anyone in the locker room, it was almost cemented, and they were erased immediately whenever he goes and gets that first down. They run it to him 2 times in a row. To me, that was big time. That was making a statement. That was making a statement saying that we need this game. We're going to take it. We've got an opportunity to win it right now, and that's what we're going to do. And then 2, hopefully this can boost our team, off and put us on a run, because now we've got a young quarterback that from making that play, I could see that being a big boost for him going forward and for the entire offense in general.
Absolutely. And speaking of offense and quarterbacks, real quick. Now, hey, granted, folks, this is a 2-hour show. We almost need 4 hours tonight because there's so many games that we can break down from this past weekend, so many teams. Obviously, we're not going to get to all those games. But one game I do want to talk about, or one player specifically, or team specifically, Arizona Cardinals. Now they're 2-0. Kyler Murray passed 400 yards. He's off to an MVP-type start in his third season. He's off to an MVP-type start. Not surprising to me at all. The guy is a human joystick out there on the field. And they look very good right now. Maybe should have lost that game against Minnesota, but I don't necessarily look at things like that. Hey, you look at it like this. Things happen in the NFL. The guy missed a field goal. It's what happens. I mean, he missed a field goal and they lost. So it wasn't meant to be. So Minnesota, as good as they've looked the last 2 weeks, now Arizona the first week, they were stout on the defense side of the ball. Minnesota gashed them a bit. Minnesota did gash them a bit. But Kyler Murray is so special. Then you have a guy now at wide receiver to go along with DeAndre Hopkins and Rondell Barber from Purdue, who's a game breaker in the slot. Then you have Christian Kirk. I mean, this offense with Kingsbury and the things he's able to do, the way he can scheme up things right now, I mean, they're looking special. You still have J.J. Watt on defense, who's very energetic right now, Chandler Jones. And again, Dalvin Cook gashed them the last game, but Dalvin Cook is going to do what he does.
Well, I think that's probably their biggest problem. And Rondell Moore, the kid you mentioned, he's a beast.
He is a beast.
And I think he's only going to get better as the season goes on and he gets more familiar. But the best thing working in his favor is that, this style of offense run by Kingsbury. And while that is, what has them off to this great start, that explosive offense run by Kyler Murray, who runs it, I think, better than anybody else could, not named Patrick Mahomes. In spite of that, still their defense is where I see this team lacking. I know Chandler Jones has been otherworldly. He's been getting after the quarterback. What do you have? Yeah, 5 sacks in the first game, and it helps out a lot now that somebody like J.J. Watt is on the other side of the bookend defensive line, where teams can't just pay all that attention to Chandler Jones. If you take your eyes, off of J.J. Watt, he can hurt you on the backside as well. I think does he have a touchdown on the season already too as well? Scoop and score.
J.J.
Does for J.J. Watt.
Okay. Not surprising.
So, look, this team, to me, it's still, I feel it's like that Chip Kelly experiment. We're still trying to figure out if they're going to be, we know who they are. They're going to light it up with their offense. They're going to put some points on the board.
But we do know
are they going to give too many possessions to the offense? Is their time of possession not going to be what it should be? Are they going to be able to run the football when they really, truly need to? Are they going to be able to impose their will running the football? As we all know, you need to do at times in the playoffs, especially when you play some of the toughest defenses that are going to get after your quarterback. And yeah, Kyler's been great, but you can't have him running around like a chicken with his head cut off the entire season. Eventually that could start to wear him down. So it just depends on I'm still waiting to see if this is the type of, if this type of football philosophy at the NFL level will work. And clearly it does on offense, but so far, I'm not so sure it does on defense.
Well,
It's still yet to be seen, but they're going to have to be a lot better against the run.
Yeah, they are.
Especially, if they're going to compete in the NFC.
Right.
We know what the juggernauts do in the NFC. Generally,
that's
they run
a tough
the football.
division as well. But the one thing about it is, while they're figuring everything out and they're continuing to get better,
right?
They look at their record and they're 2-0. So that sits well right there. The fact that they're 2-0, and of course, again, there's a lot of other teams that we can talk about. Is any game specifically before we get into some baseball?
No, I was going through them all. I think that's it.
We're going to go to about 8:15 tonight. Let's roll with some baseball, man. The Astros are looking good right now.
Yeah, Astros have looked good. They've got a comfortable, I think, 7-game lead on the Athletics. They're still, experimenting with bringing plenty of their young talent that's right on the cusp of being major league ready. They're getting them into action, and these guys have been playing well. So, they've still got two big series coming up with the A's. Depending on how those shake out,
they have a 7-game lead right now.
Yeah, but depending on those shake out, I more have my eye on that number one overall
playoff
position in the American League, which right now they trail the Rays by 3 games. They're playing a weaker Angels team, which really has kind of been the kryptonite for the Astros this year. They're playing a weaker team in the Angels. They got 3 games. They got them 3 coming up next, and then after that, I think it's the A's. So, I mean, we'll see. I think they're going to be, if they keep mashing the ball the way they've been mashing it lately,
right.
I think they're going to be fine. But I would love to see them be able to sew up that home field advantage all the way throughout the playoffs and have that,
nice.
Have that in your back pocket when you're going into an ALCS or even an ALDS. That's going to be extremely tough this year.
Hey, you know what? And I'm looking forward to the playoffs. Again, the Astros have a 7-game lead. Now, you speak of the Athletics. Now, we talked about a while back about how we wanted to keep the Athletics at bay when it comes down to this point in the season. You want to have a certain cushion on them to where you can have some games that you can play with. You can maybe lose a game here and there, but you definitely wanted to win the division. You do not want to depend on a wild card berth. So the Astros seem like they're firmly entrenched as far as winning the division is concerned. It would be nice to see them hold down that home field advantage. That would be very nice. Again, if they can get that pitching with some consistency. Of course, we know they can mash on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the playoffs. To be honest with you, ever since the NFL season has started and the college football season has started, I've kind of been watching baseball from afar. I guess during the show I shouldn't say that, but I'm just being honest right now. I've kind of been saying, I can't wait till the playoffs. Now, of course, I'm keeping an eye on teams who are actually vying for a playoff spot as far as in the National League and the American League, as far as a wild card is concerned. You have certain teams that's automatically going to be in there. Like we talked about the Rays. The Stros are going to win their division. The White Sox are going to win their division. The Giants and the Dodgers are still battling it out. The Phillies are trying to catch the Braves. Hey, my boy Bryce Harper's been balling. He's on an MVP pace right now. I just don't know if they're going to be able to catch the Braves. They're 3 games back. They've been playing at a very high level. Lost a game to the Orioles last night that they should have won. While the Braves actually won, they could have gotten themselves. They could have stayed where they're, but they're 3 games back now. So they're going to have to stay somewhere right there, get closer. So when they play the Braves here in this 4-game, I think a 4-game series coming up here in the next week, they can be within striking distance to take the lead in that division, because even though they're in the wild card race with the Reds and these other teams, of course, the Giants, the Padres. And so it's going to be interesting to see how things play out. Again, as far as the MVP race is concerned, I like what Bryce Harper is doing. He'll probably, if he's able to get Philadelphia into the playoffs, he probably could win it, even though they're probably going to give it to Tatis. But what Bryce Harper is doing across the board, then if he's able to catapult the Phillies into the playoffs, they'll probably give it to him. But he's definitely going to be in the top 2. But you have Tatis with 39 home runs. I remember earlier in the year, Harper had kind of got off to a slow start. Now he's at 33 home runs. Now he's at 80 RBIs. He's batting like .313 or something like that. He leads the league in OPS with over 1,000. So he's put the Phillies on his back. Now, will that be enough? I like what Zach Wheeler is doing. So there are some teams I'm really interested to see if they actually get in the playoffs. Of course, the Braves, they're trying to catch the Braves, like I say. But who do you see as far as Eddie, as far as the AL MVP between Guerrero and Otani?
I don't know. I really think that Otani is going to be the guy. I love the season that Guerrero has had, and
Man,
man,
how can you deny him?
he's spectacular. I here's what I'm saying. Let me finish. I think Guerrero may be the guy that deserves it the most, but I just feel like with Otani, his multifaceted game, the way he
Yeah, but that's
pitches
different.
so well and hits so well, what he means to the future of the sport, and not only in the United States, but the growth
Okay,
of
let
the
me ask you
sport.
this.
I think with this great season that he have, I almost can't see them giving it to anyone
Me
else.
either,
But I
but
feel
let me
like
ask you this.
Guerrero certainly has earned it. And if he wasn't competing against Otani at this time,
He
I
would be
think Guerrero
automatic.
would be. There you go.
Let me ask you a question. Who has the most money?
I hate saying that because I don't want to take it away from Otani, because he's had a tremendous season.
Otani has been special. He's been the Babe Ruth of the present day. I mean, again, a guy that can pitch like he does with the numbers that he's put up as a pitcher. Love the guy's personality. Love him as a person. Put up tremendous what he's doing on the offensive side of the ball. I think Guerrero, what he's doing also. But you look at the Angels, where they're going to be. They're not going to even make the playoffs. The Blue Jays are vying for a playoff spot. But let me ask you this. This will put a bow on this right here. And I hate to put it like this, but you were alluding to it right here. Who has the most money, Japan or the Dominican?
Well,
Case closed. Who can make the most money for Major League Baseball, Japan or the Dominican Republic? Who can make the most money for just America itself, Japan or the Dominican? Case closed. Otani is going to win it, and not that he doesn't deserve it with the exploits that Eddie is talking about and that we're speaking of. Let's get real right here. Otani is going to win it because of what I just said. That's why that's going to be the deciding factor at the end of the day.
Right.
Because Guerrero is vying for a triple crown right now, but.
I just don't want to take
That's
away
not
from the
here,
fact
not
that
there.
Otani does do something that nobody else does in the league,
does.
and does it at a level that nobody's done it, in almost the last 60, 70, 80 years. I don't know how long it's been. It's been forever. It's almost 100 years. It's been forever. Yeah. Nobody does or has been able to do what he does, and it's just the type of year that he's had this year. To me, it's certainly worthy. But yeah, when it comes to the traditional, mash and dash MVP, I mean, Guerrero is just.
Yeah. So
he's been phenomenal.
Right. So we'll see how that goes, Eddie. Eddie, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Astros do, man. I know we were not able to talk a lot of baseball today, but of course in the coming weeks when the playoffs near.
Once they heat up, once the playoffs heat up.
Absolutely.
Right now, football, it just rules the world. It's what we're talking about right now. It rules the world. Football does right now,
Who the boys play this week?
I have to look. They're
know that
Eagles,
myself.
They're playing the Eagles, yeah.
Okay.
So a big matchup, a big test.
That's a divisional game. I'm picking my boys right there. Jalen Hurts is going to do a lot of running around, making plays, throwing the ball outside the pocket, finding his receivers open downfield. The Cowboys have to stay disciplined. They have to establish the run. They have to continue to use Pollard and Zeke. And Dak has to be Dak. And those players on the outside have to be what they are on the outside. They have to be special. And Michael Parsons has to continue to be special on the defense side of the ball. Trayvon. So, hey, go get them, Cowboys.
Hey, the showdown between
Any other game?
Jalen Hurts. No, this will be it. The showdown between
We'll talk
Jalen
about the
Hurts
games next week.
and Dak Prescott, I think, is really setting the stage for which team is going to take command and control in this division, and which quarterback, is going to try to. I know Jalen Hurts is not thought of or seen on the level as Dak Prescott is. And I know a lot of people still have questions about Dak Prescott, but I don't think there's any doubt. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the league, and he certainly is a guy that I think is playing at a high level. Jalen Hurts is showing now this year to do a lot of things that he wasn't able to do last year. They really opened up things for him. He's making, big-time throws that maybe we weren't so sure he was capable of making. And then now, there was all this talk that they might go after Deshaun Watson.
Right.
And anytime there's talk of changing quarterbacks, that means you're not 100% sold on the guy you have.
That's why I asked you earlier, a few weeks ago, I'm like, what am I missing about Jalen Hurts? Because even after that first game that I watched the entire game, I think they were playing the Falcons, if I'm not mistaken, I'm saying to myself, that is their future franchise quarterback, period. What's all this? We should bring that guy in. We should bring this guy in. You have your franchise quarterback in than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, well, then you realize the Falcons are giving up 50 points a game. You're like, well, let's
I
just
like what I
let's
see from
just
Jalen
wait
Hurts
and
as
see.
far
Well,
as-
that's
as
what I'm
far-
saying. Here's
as
the
far as
opportunity.
his ability, as far as the way he leads his team. I like what he did in college. I like his ability as far as throwing the ball, running the ball. I like his leadership ability. I love his intangibles. I love everything about Jalen
Look,
Hurts.
everybody knows that he's a gamer. I mean, whenever he decided to stay at Alabama, I think that's when a lot of people learned what type of kid he was,
Right.
or what type of kid he is.
Right.
And now I think this game is a perfect opportunity for him to show, his interdivision opponent and the rest of the league that he is on the level of a Dak
Don't
Prescott.
show it this week, though, Jalen.
He has arrived, that's what he's trying to say. And with the big win against Dallas, and if he plays really well, he's going to be on that level. If he continues to pass the ball well, they continue to have an explosive offense, then you're going to see. I mean, he's very comparable to a Dak Prescott. They're similar guys to me. So this is his opportunity to show by taking out a guy that whose status is a little bit better than his and a division opponent. By taking him out, Jalen Hurts may very well have a coming out party or plant his flag and say, hey, I have arrived and the Eagles are back.
Right.
And that is not good news for the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey man, you know what too? I mean, it wouldn't be. So that's why I don't want him to do that.
Hey,
this
but
week.
the Cowboys can put that fire out before it even gets started.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm gonna say real quick. You have to be. I'm very impressed with Dak Prescott, the way he's come back from that injury and the way he's playing. I mean, he deserves every penny. I know I'm on record and a number of times in the past saying, well, let him do this and let him do that, or maybe he shouldn't make 40 mil, blah, blah, blah. But Dak has proven that he's worth every penny and that I was wrong early
The
on.
Cowboys
about
wouldn't
even
be
going-
anywhere
they wouldn't
or
be nowhere near where
anywhere
they are
without
Dak
him.
Prescott right now. He is playing at a phenomenal level. I've always loved his leadership skills. I've always loved his ability. But a lot of what he was asking for, I thought, was predicated on projections. Now he's actually performing on the field, and he's putting up those numbers. He's protecting the football for the most part. But again, Dak Prescott is looking like a top 3 to 4 quarterback in this league so far. So we'll see what happens moving forward with the Texans, with the Cowboys, see what my Buckeyes can do. Playing Akron this week. They better not let Akron go out there and throw for over 300-400 yards, Eddie.
You're going to see the ghost of Steve McNair go out there and just kill it.
Oh, man. Well, no, Eric McNair played at Alcorn State.
Oh, Alcorn. Oh, why did I
They
think you
played
went to
Akron.
Akron?
Yeah, Akron. And so should run the score up against Akron, but the way my Buckeyes look on defense so far, I'm not so sure. So we shall see. And as far as the other college games, we'll see. We'll break it all down next week. We'll break it down. We'll break down the NFL, all the games, all the matchups this weekend. Of course, we'll talk some MLB like we're talking about. The NBA basketball season is right around the corner, so we'll start sprinkling in a little bit of NBA too. But hey, we'll
Ben
be back
Simmons
next
goes
week.
Deshaun Watson. Says no go for the Steelers, the 76ers anymore.
Let's see.
And so it demands a trade. I've heard rumors from every
Wow.
team, across the league, including the Houston Rockets. So we'll talk about
Okay,
that
we'll
more
see.
as the season
Ooh,
gets
man,
closer.
I'm looking forward to the Rockets, man, and they're young phenom coming in right there. But hey, Jalen Green,
Yeah.
can't wait to see him play. Can't wait to see him play real games. Hey, we'll be back next week. Eddie Cox, great job as always, my friend. Until next week,
We're going on a 168-hour break.
let's
We'll
just
be
live
back.
and let live.
Later, y'all.